July has been a rather interesting week in Uganda on the political front. First, we had the Norbert Mao and Museveni marriage, a political marriage, as I would call it, that brought a lot of commentary in the country. And then, of course, after that, we had the Lukwago-Ofwono Opondo fracas. Lukwago is the mayor of Kampala, the Lord Mayor of Kampala, and he currently belongs to the opposition political party of FDC, Forum for Democratic Change. And Ofwono Opondo is the NRM spokesperson, the NRM, the National Resistance Movement, that is the current political party that is leading Uganda's government in 2022. They were on a talk show, a political talk show, a social political talk show, when Ofwono Opondo gets up and says he can actually get Lukwago off the show. Now, we won't go into the details of that. It's all over YouTube. It's all over social media. You can go and check it out. You've already seen it, probably. But here is the thing. Some people have come out with a narrative which is quite false. And the narrative which they are pushing, of course, the narrative which Lukwago and other opposition people are pushing is this, that Lukwago is the victim and Ofwono Opondo is the bad guy. But that is not the truth. The reality is actually the opposite. The big bad wolf in this particular context is the mayor of Kampala, Erias Lukwago. And the innocent guy, the victim, is actually Ofwono Opondo. Let me explain this quickly. When it comes to aggression, people unfortunately assume that there is only one form of aggression, which is physical aggression. I get up, I beat you up, and they assume that is the only kind of aggression which exists in the world. But there is also something called verbal aggression. Verbal aggression, most people don't pay a lot of attention to it. And you find people being abused and being tortured psychologically, emotionally through verbal aggression. And this person who is applying verbal aggression is not doing any physical aggression, so they get away with it for a very long time. Now, this is what is exactly happening in this case. Ofwono Opondo got up, which is seen as physical, so people are like, oh, he's the bad guy. Yet, in reality, Ofwono Opondo was getting up to defend himself. I'll come to that shortly. Whereas, Lukwago, the big bad wolf in this case, is actually the one who was aggressive, but he was aggressive verbally. Now, first and foremost, remember that Lukwago has been trained in law, and one of the things, one of the tricks, one of the techniques, one of the strategies of lawyers, of people trained in the law, is to agitate the people they are questioning. And how do they do that? They try to get at them by annoying them. And how do you annoy somebody? Basically go aggressive. Of course, in court, you're not allowed to physically assault someone. So what you do is you go verbally aggressive on them. You make insinuations which are not there. If you're a fan of TV, you've seen this stuff in TV drama. And it's really, if you've been to real court, this stuff still happens. So Lukwago is a master of verbal aggression, if only by the fact of his training as a man of the law. So Lukwago is a master in these techniques, and he has consistently used them. The evidence for that is all over TV shows, is all over radio shows. He has consistently used this. And this is the same thing Lukwago was doing on that particular show. And what people forget is that, so Lukwago, first and foremost, is the culprit in this incident because he was verbally aggressive. But remember that one of the rights, one of the universal human rights, is a right to dignity for any individual. When somebody is being aggressive to you, they are denying you your right to dignity, whether they are being aggressive to you verbally, whether they are being aggressive to you physically or any other way, they are actually denying you your right to dignity. So Lukwago, by being verbally aggressive in this particular situation, was denying Ofwono Opondo his right, his universal right to dignity. And the Constitution of Uganda and the general understanding across the globe is that you have a right again to stand up for your dignity. You have a right to stand up for your dignity. And the Constitution of Uganda specifically, actually, since we are talking about Uganda, the Constitution of Uganda acknowledges the fact that people should stand up and fight for their rights. So and that standing up incidentally could include even using a gun, which is physical, as long as you're actually standing up for your dignity, and it can be well proven that you were actually standing up against an aggressor, right? So when Mr. Ofwono Opondo stands up and says, I can get you out of here, he's actually standing up to defend his dignity, which is a universal human right. And he's protected by the Constitution of Uganda, which says, fight for your rights, fight for your dignity. So Mr. Ofwono Opondo is actually, the Constitution of Uganda is behind him. The human rights, universal human rights are actually behind him, because the Constitution of Uganda says, fight for your rights. Universal human rights acknowledge the right to your dignity. So that's the short and sweet of it. We should learn as Ugandans that there is different types of aggression. Physical aggression is one of them. Verbal aggression is also another. Verbal aggression is also another. And many opposition politicians, unfortunately, some politicians in government also use it, but it's mostly a trick of the opposition in Uganda in 2022 to be verbally aggressive, because they know most people assume wrongly that when someone says something verbally, that is not aggression. But I mean, there is a difference between pointing out that something is wrong. There is a difference between voicing your opinion and actually being deliberately verbally aggressive. I don't have to go into the specifics and technicalities of that, but any adult human being knows the difference between verbal aggression and someone simply pointing out a mistake or disagreeing with your opinion. These are two completely different things. So the big bad wolf in this case is the mayor of Kampala City, Lukwago, and the victim, the good guy in this case, is Ofwono Opondo, who was actually standing up for his right to dignity.